Good morning, everybody. So we are continuing with general anesthetics part 2 in this session. So the learning objectives for this class are intravenous anesthetics. We'll look into the classification and we'll be concentrating mainly on some of the important intravenous anesthetics like thiopentone sodium, propofol, and ketamine, because these are very important from your examination point of view. Then we shall briefly look into what conscious sedation means, and then we'll be emphasizing on pre-anesthetic medication. So these are the areas which you have to concentrate during this session. So first we look into the classification of intravenous anesthetics. So they are classified into inducing agents and slower acting agents. So under the inducing agents, you have got barbiturates. Examples are thiopentone sodium, methoxytone sodium, and there are non-barbiturates. Examples are propofol and etomidate. Under the slower acting agents, you have some benzodiazepines like diazepam, lorazepam, and midazolam. And then you have got a new terminology called as the dissociative anesthesia, the example of which is ketamine. For this classification of intravenous anesthetics, you will learn by heart. Now we'll see what do you mean by inducing agents. So these agents produce rapid loss of consciousness in 1 arm brain circulation time. So how much approximately is this time? It is around 11 seconds. So these agents produce loss of consciousness in around 11 seconds. And hence they are used for induction. Induction means setting on the anesthesia and also for reducing the amount of maintenance anesthesia. So if you induce a patient with this agent, you can correspondingly you can decrease the amount of anesthesia which is required for maintenance. So we'll now look into the pharmacokinetics of IV anesthetics. So we'll do it step by step. So first, after single IV bolus dose. So most of the inducing agents, they are given by the intravenous route. So what happens after a single IV bolus dose of intravenous anesthetics? So the drug will first enter the highly perfused and lipophilic organs like the brain. So it is first targeting the highly perfused, means the organs which are having good blood supply. The drug will reach there first. So one example of such an organ is the brain. So this once the agent drug reaches the brain, it will produce rapid onset of anesthesia. That is, there is a rapid loss of consciousness. Then what happens when the entire drug reaches the brain? What happens to the level of the drug in the blood? There is a fall in the blood levels, and because of this fall in the blood levels, now there is a redistribution out of the CNS. That is, the drug comes out of the CNS into the blood, and from the blood it is going to the less perfused tissues like muscle and fat, and from the blood it will go to the less perfused tissues like the muscle and the fat. So once a redistribution occurs, this will terminate the anesthetic action of a single dose. So that is called as a distribution T-half. So at the end of the distribution T-half, you will have termination of action of the drug in the brain. Then the final elimination of the drug, however, occurs only after metabolism and excretion of the drug stored in the peripheral tissue. That means now after redistribution, that it reaches all the less perfused tissues like muscle and fat, and so that there is termination of its action in the brain. And but the drug has still not left the body. The final elimination occurs only after it is metabolized and excreted out of the body, and that is called as the elimination T-half. So these drugs will be having two T-halves, that is distribution T-half, which is indicative of the time when the action of the drug is over in the brain, and elimination T-half is an indicator of the time that will be required to eliminate the drug completely out of the body. Now, we'll now deal with the first drug, that is thiopentone sodium. It's an ultra short acting thiobarbiturate. It is available as a sodium salt and which it has to be reconstituted freshly. So whenever you're going to administer this drug, you have to reconstitute it that time. From the salt, you have to make it into a solution form freshly. So regarding the pharmacokinetics, we already discussed it enters the brain very fast and unconsciousness is produced in 15 to 20 seconds. The redistribution T half is 3 minutes and the duration of the action in the brain lasts for about 6 to 10 minutes. The elimination T half is 7 to 12 hours. So you can see the distribution T half is very short, 3 minutes, whereas the elimination T half is around 7 to 12 hours. Anesthetic features, it produces rapid unconsciousness, though it is a poor analgesic and weak muscle relaxant. So you can see that it is producing unconsciousness very rapidly, but it is a very poor analgesic and muscle relaxant. What are the ADRs? It can cause laryngospasm. It can cause shivering, delirium, and pain in the post-operative period. It can precipitate porphyria in individuals who are susceptible to it. Then what is a clinical use? It is the commonly used inducing agent, and sometimes it is used for as a sole anesthetic agent for short operations that are not painful. So sometimes you are requiring very brief procedures of a very short duration, and that time you do not require a maintenance anesthetic. You can just continue, you can just use this thiopentone sodium itself, and you have to be seeing that procedure is not very painful because you have seen that it is not a very good analgesic. It is also an anesthetic which is used during an electroconvulsive therapy and narcoanalysis. Okay, so then you would have heard a lot about narcoanalysis in the news also. So the anesthetic which is given during narcoanalysis is thiopentone sodium. Now, next we go to the next inducing agent under the barbiturate category, that is methotrexate. So we'll just see how it is different from thiopentone. It is 3 times more potent. It has got a quicker onset of action, and its duration of action is briefer, like 5 to 8 minutes only. And why the duration of action is briefer is because of its rapid metabolism. And because of this fact, the patient becomes roadworthy very quickly and hence preferred for OP procedures. So thiopentone sodium, I told you, the elimination T half is around 8 to 12 hours. So even after the patient becomes conscious, the drug is not totally eliminated from the body. So it will take, you cannot discharge the patient that quickly. On the other hand, methotrexate, the elimination T half is 4 hours and you can discharge the patient very quickly. Next, we go to the non-barbiturates category, propofol. So this one is available as a 1 to 2% emulsion. This is very important because it is the only anesthetic agent which is available as an emulsion, and it is appearing usually as a white emulsion. It has a rapid onset of anesthetic action, about 15 to 45 seconds. Duration of action 5 to 10 minutes, and the redistribution T half is 2 to 4 minutes. It is rapidly metabolized in liver and is excreted by the kidney. And even some amount of extrahepatic metabolism occurs. So the patient becomes roadworthy faster. So in all these cases, you can see whenever there's a rapid metabolism, you can discharge the patient very fast because you are sure that the drug has been totally eliminated from the body. So what are the features of anesthesia? It has got a smooth and pleasant induction. The onset and duration of action is also very fast as comparable to similar to the thiopentone sodium. Duration of action is much shorter as compared to thiopentone sodium because of its rapid metabolism, and the patient can become roadworthy faster. That is one advantage of propofol. So, and also there is a low incidence of post-anesthetic nausea and vomiting. In fact, this drug has got anti-emetic action. Okay, so it doesn't cause any kind of post-anesthetic nausea and vomiting. So advantages, the patient becomes roadworthy faster. There is no nausea and vomiting. There is a quick pleasant induction. So these are some of the advantages. So where do we use it? It is used mainly as an inducing agent, especially for outpatient surgery. So when we have got some brief procedure, when you have discharged the patient on the same day, you can use propofol. Then it is also used as a maintenance agent. So this drug is used as inducing agent also, as a maintenance agent also. And it is also used for conscious sedation. So what is conscious sedation? We'll be looking into that later. So what are the ADRs? It produces pain on injection, There is sometimes there is transient apnea, hypotension, bradycardia on induction, but fortunately it is not long lasting and it comes back to normal very fast. It can sometimes produce metabolic acidosis, especially in children with respiratory infection. And heart failure can occur on prolonged use. So these are the different uses of and the areas of propofol. Next, we go on to the etomidate. It is the imidazole supplied as a solution. Again, this has got a rapid onset as well as a short duration of action, metabolized by liver, and it's eliminated both by the kidney and the liver. The features you can see, it is having a poor analgesic. But what is the main advantage of etomidate is that it has got a better cardiovascular stability and it causes lesser respiratory depression. So it is an induction agent which is suited for patients who are having some cardiac problems like CAD, hypovolemia, and cardiomyopathy. So this is mainly used for patients who are having cardiac problems. Next, we go to the slower acting agents. So under this, we have got benzodiazepines. So we have dealt with benzodiazepines under various chapters like sedative hypnotics, under skeletal muscle relaxants, under anti-epileptics. So benzodiazepines are also used as a slower acting anesthetic agents. They are used both for inducing and maintaining anesthesia. The large IV doses produce sedation, amnesia, and unconsciousness in 5 to 10 minutes. So one property about benzodiazepines is that the dosage. If you just want to produce sedation, you'll use a smaller dose. And if you want to increase the like you want to bring an anesthetic effect, you have to increase the dose. So based on the dose, it can be used in sedative, pure sedative, or it can be used in anesthetic. It has got poor analgesic action. Obviously, it decreases the muscle tone, but it is not up to the surgical grade. So you already know it's a skeletal muscle relaxant, but it can relax the muscles, but not to a surgical grade. Means it will not produce complete immobilization. It does not produce marked respiratory depression, BP, fall, or cardiac contractility, and doesn't cause post-operative nausea or vomiting. And one advantage is that it has got an antidote and it can reverse the anesthetic action. The flumazenil. Flumazenil is the agent that can reverse the anesthetic action of benzodiazepine. So the mechanism of action and all you have elaborately learned in other chapters. So only thing that you have to remember here is that as per the dose, the benzodiazepines can act as sedatives or they can act as anesthetics, and their action can be antagonized by flumazenil. So we just compare the three important benzodiazepines which are used as anesthetics: diazepam, lorazepam, and midazolam. So you can see the diazepam injection is somewhat painful and it can cause the inflammation of veins called as thrombophlebitis. On the other hand, lorazepam and midazolam are comparatively less irritating. And you can see diazepam and midazolam, they are having rapid onset of action, whereas lorazepam has got somewhat slower action. And when you see the comparison of the action, you can see lorazepam has got more potent action, and midazolam, it is 3 times more potent and higher degree of amnesia. So if you look at all the properties together, you can see that midazolam can be preferred compared to diazepam and lorazepam as an anesthetic because it is non-irritating, it is having a rapid onset of action, it has got a higher potency, and it produces a higher degree of amnesia as compared to diazepam and lorazepam. Next, we go on to ketamine. Again, this is also a very often asked question in your exams. So this is a drug which is pharmacologically related to phencyclidine. The features of anesthesia, it produces something called as a dissociative anesthesia. So what is this dissociative anesthesia? It is profound analgesia, immobility, amnesia with light sleep, and feeling of dissociation from one's own body and surroundings. So here the patient is almost like in a light sleep. He's not unconscious. He's having a light sleep and he's feeling dissociated from one's own body and surroundings. The onset of action is within 1 minute and it lasts for 10 to 15 minutes. And one of the problems with this ketamine is that it can produce emergence, delirium, and hallucinations when on recovery. It also dilates the bronchi. So what is emergence delirium? It is a confused behavior that is shown by the patients when they recover from ketamine. So the clinical use, they are mainly used as anesthetic agents in children because they tolerate it very well. They are used for operations on head and neck in patients who have had severe bleeding and in asthmatics. Why in asthmatics? Because they can dilate the bronchi. They are also used for good repeated use, like example, burn dressing. So whenever you're dressing a burns patient, it is very, very painful, and sometimes you might have to give the patient an anesthetic agent before going on for the burn dressing. So ketamine is a very good agent because it can be used repeatedly. And it's also an agent used for cardiac catheterizations, angiographies, and all. It is contraindicated in hypertension, ischemic heart disease, and in the patients with raised ICT. So that finishes ketamine. Now we look into what is conscious sedation. So it is a monitored state of altered consciousness, and it is employed along with local or regional anesthesia for some short procedures, especially diagnostic or short surgical procedures. So it is not a state of full unconscious. It's only a state of altered consciousness, and it is usually applied with a regional or local anesthesia. How it is different from general anesthesia? There is no unconsciousness, only there is mild CNS depression, which is enough to withstand the physiological and psychological stress of the surgery. So you can make a verbal communication with the patient during the procedure. The patient still will be responding to your commands during this procedure, and it maintains a patent airway, and all the protective airway reflexes are preserved. So in what type of patients it is employed? It is used mainly in apprehensive patients who are medically compromised, where you cannot go in for a full-fledged general anesthesia. The drugs which are useful for conscious sedation: benzodiazepine, that is diazepam IV or oral, or midazolam IV, propofol, opioid analgesics like fentanyl and nitrous oxide. So this can be asked as name two drugs which are used for conscious sedation. So you have to remember these drugs which are used for conscious sedation. Now we come to the last bit of our class, that is pre-anesthetic medication. So before going for a surgery or before you start off the patient on an anesthetic agent, you have to give some drugs before the anesthesia is given, and that is called as the pre-anesthetic medication. So why do you use drugs before anesthesia? It is to produce sedation, for relief of anxiety, for amnesia or forgetfulness of the pre and post-operative events, to supplement the analgesic action of the anesthetic, to relieve the pre and the post-operative pain, decrease secretions and vagal stimulation, decrease acidity and volume of gastric secretions, to have an antiemetic effect which can extend even after into the post-op period. So first, whenever you're writing a short note on pre-anesthetic medication, you have to write these aims of pre-anesthetic medication before you go on to the drugs. Now, the drugs which are used are sedative anti-anxiety drugs like benzodiazepines just before induction. These produce sedation, tranquility, and amnesia. You can even use an antihistamine like promethazine, which can have a sedative effect, an antiemetic effect, and also an anticholinergic effect. So anticholinergic effect means it will decrease the secretions. Then you can give opioid analgesics like morphine, fentanyl, pethidine, because this will decrease the anxiety. They also will add on to the analgesic action in the pre and post-operative period. And but they are, however, restricted use because of their obvious ADRs. Then anticholinergics. So already we mentioned about promethazine. Other than that, the anticholinergics used are atropine, hyoscine, glycopyrrolate. So these decrease the secretions and prevent vagal bradycardia and hypotension. So these decrease the secretions and prevent vagal bradycardia and hypotension. Then you have got H2 blockers, proton pump inhibitors, which decrease the acidity and the risk of aspiration. So you need to have your the gastric acidity decrease, because once the patient is anesthetized, all his protective reflexes are lost and there is a risk of aspiration. So it is essential that before the surgery or before giving anesthetic, you have to decrease the acidity of the stomach. Then antiemetics like metoclopramide, domperidone, ondansetron, they will prevent the post-op vomiting. So so this is the way you have to write the short note on pre-anesthetic medication. Tell the aims of pre-anesthetic medication, and then you have to tell the drugs which are used for the corresponding uses. Then, so these are the important questions. Once again, classification of intravenous anesthetics, short notes on thiopentone sodium, propofol, ketamine, conscious sedation. Often is not used as a short note, but it still can know about it. And pre-anesthetic medication, again, is a short note. So with that, we come to the end of the class. Thank you for the patient hearing.